You'll be safe.
So I made a documentary about artists escaping a cult.
Hi, I'm Ryan Sutter. For 16 years, I ran a record label for Jehovah's Witness artists, and Witness Underground is our feature documentary. Nuclear Gopher was a record label and online community of Jehovah's Witnesses who all did indie music.
Within the confines of an elusive cult, an alternative music community thrived, deprogramming themselves through art.
Poignant live performances punctuate tragic stories of loss to beautifully illuminate the shunning by Jehovah's Witnesses.
Hi, I'm Scott Homan. I am the director. I had this deep need to tell a very personal story, but I didn't want to make a movie about me. With Nuclear Gopher, we have an incredible example of an undiscovered music scene, a lost collection of 30-plus albums and short films, a community to celebrate, a bond stronger than faith.
There's a new documentary about the Jehovah's Witnesses every year, and they all follow a fairly similar pattern. They revel in the trauma and the sensationalism. This film's different. Everyone in this film navigated cult mind control, survived it, and chose to live a better life. Nuclear Gopher was a world of its own, with movies and music and memories and some of the greatest friendships and relationships of my life. Also, some of my favorite albums. And this movie celebrates and shares that, but also shows that creativity is a powerful force in our lives.
Many of those people at the core of the scene later got out of the religion and used self-expression to process their trauma through compelling and powerful music.
We've all lost someone close to us. But imagine everyone you've ever known choosing to cut you off. It's easy to get lost in anger towards religious leaders or organizations or people who are actually shunning you. But that's the purpose. It's a punishment you're supposed to suffer and crawl back.
I wanted to show another perspective, another path that is based in self-empowerment, finding your own voice through music and art. In Ryan's story, I found something deeply relatable, losses not just of our families trapped inside, but of innocence, love, community, of great times hanging out with genuine people, the bond forged between artists. I used to be in a band myself with my brother, and I knew intuitively that with the power of music, we could cut to the emotional core of the story and make a powerful impact on society.
We're raising finishing funds in order to distribute and release Witness Underground professionally.
Even if you can't support the project financially, by sharing this in email, social media, in groups with friends and family, you're already helping us accomplish our goals. For maximum social impact, we want Witness Underground to be easy to find and watch on common streaming services. Your contribution will help us make it available everywhere. Thank you so much for supporting our campaign.
We have two very special guests today, Scott Homan and Ryan Sutter, both who are responsible for heading up a project called Witness Underground. So welcome to the program, gentlemen.
Thanks a lot, Gary.
Thank you.
All right. I know we talked recently, a bunch of times, but the first thing I wanted to ask you about is well, first of all, Witness Underground 3-minute, trailer video has been, I think, making the rounds lately. I've seen it on several post JW Facebook groups. So that's a good thing. I mean, exposure and publicity is the best thing. So I think people are getting to know it a little bit, but even for them or for anyone that never heard of this before, how would you describe the project, what it's all about?
Well, Ryan and I both have our little taglines. I made a film about artists who've escaped a cult, and Ryan?
I ran an independent record label for Jehovah's Witnesses for about 16 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that is the basis of the film, to get as short as possible. The big concept of the film is there's been a lot of movies on the topic, and everyone has their opinion and understanding of what this religion is, and almost none of them are really that complete of a picture, I don't feel. And often I felt the reason I wanted to make the film was because it seemed like a lot of the films are kind of exploitative of the emotions of the people, and it just felt like a pity play for like a news agency to look at this traumatic thing that happened. I wanted to make a film that was I was proud of. I came from this thing, and it's very strange and bizarre, but I also learned a lot, and I also got a lot of things from it that were positive. And there's this really cool community there. Shunning was the main topic I wanted to deal with because that's the main thing that affected me, but it's also kind of universal amongst people who leave this group and other similar types of groups. And I feel like that's something that needs to be talked about and understood. So I want to make a film that really explores that, but then shows what happens after. And we found, well, this music scene that Ryan had really spearheaded. There was an amazing thing happening in the religion that I actually drew me in deeper into the religion because of the music scene. And I got to know them in real time. So that's how I connected to them. And later, 10 years later, I was like, hey, we kept in touch over the years, and I started working professionally with some of these musicians. And I was like, do you guys want to tell this story? I feel like through the music, we could actually like find a path that's like about healing. And like we all dealt with some trauma, but like also you guys have this incredible archive of music and films, and it also tells this really interesting story that's sort of nuanced, and it's kind of has this healthy element to it that like you can accelerate the path from being traumatized to like healing from it, or moving on from it, like looking forward instead of looking backwards. And maybe the power of music can help people accelerate that, shorten the timeline from being traumatized and upset about family and angry at the religion to like, oh, I have a life on the outside now. Maybe self-expression can accelerate that. So we kind of explored that. And I feel like the film came together to sort of become this sort of beacon of hope for people that just need a path or want to accelerate their path to healing.
Okay. So your record label, Ryan, which was called Gopher, Nuclear Gopher, right?
Yeah.
That was all people that were actual witnesses at the time when you were doing the recordings and all that?
Yeah, sort of the short version of it is my family is mostly musicians, not Jehovah's Witnesses. My extended family is not Jehovah's Witnesses, but my mom and dad became witnesses when I was not even born yet. But my mom continued to be a musician. She was a singer in like wedding bands and things like that. So when my brothers and my sister and I were all growing up, we were all exposed to music and playing music, and there was instruments and things around. So we started making our own music, and we started Nuclear Gopher to just kind of for fun. Like we were recording all of our own stuff and writing our own stuff, and we weren't trying to do anything, rebellious or weird or anything. But what happened was when we started distributing some of our music to like friends and like giving tapes to people at the congregation and stuff, like other musicians, other witnesses would be like, well, hey, I didn't know I could do that. I also have been writing some songs and stuff like that. And it sort of organically started to spread. And this would have been like late 80s, early 90s. And so it was sort of, literally really lo-fi stuff, passing around VHS tapes and cassettes and like just like getting to know each other kind of stuff. And then in the mid 90s, I got into software engineering as a job, and I started building a nucleargopher.com website. And then suddenly all these different bands and all these different people all started kind of getting on these web forums, and it was all within the witness world, even though like we weren't, it was a lot of it was unspoken that was the case. Like this was a publicly available website and stuff, but when people would get disfellowshipped, they would be out of the band, and it wound up just kind of taking on this little life of its own, as Scott mentioned. Like eventually there were like music festivals, and there were bands in Minnesota, Wisconsin, Illinois, Missouri. It was really kind of cool. It was a really, but it didn't start like, oh, let's intentionally start a thing. It's just it happened to happen because my family, that was just the way we were, and then we started sharing our stuff, and it just kind of naturally grew from there.
Okay. Now, as a musician, I'm aware of the fact that if you want to devote part of your house to recording, playing, whatever, that's not unusual. But and even to be in a group, I was in bands when I was an elder. Afterwards, during, I was in bands, and you can get in a certain amount of trouble with that, but it's something you can do.
Yeah.
But the idea of like what most musicians that are professional really do, which is tour and promote their stuff on the road, and it's half a country away. So are you talking about while some of these folks were still active JWs, that doing these tours like in Missouri and such, or was that afterwards?
No, there wasn't really touring. That's a good point. It was more records distributed online. It was a mostly, and then we would have like different sort of music festivals. People would travel to go play and attend things. There was like, you know, everybody would come around and they'd all show up in Chicago, and there'd be like a 2 or 3 day lineup of bands, or they'd all come to Minnesota and kind of stuff like that. So it stayed really kind of in the Witness universe, you know? But it was also, it was kind of nuts. Like I remember like a show that my brother and sister's band played once, where they played at a coffee shop in Wisconsin, and like 700 people showed up. They literally drank all of the juice and coffee and tea and everything. Like the whole parking lot was overflowed. It really was kind of like this weird little mini scene that was much bigger than just us all playing in our garages or whatever. And it was very surprising when it was happening.
There was something special about that time and place, because we would regularly, living in northern Wisconsin, we would drive 3, 4, 5 hours to see a concert on a whim, like some night, and drive home before sunrise and like enjoy the concert. And so like all these youth who have like really limited access to what fun stuff is happening would go across state lines, like hours of driving to be attendant at one of these things. And because of that, I met people from like 5 hours south of Minneapolis, where the film takes place, in Madison, Wisconsin. And the cities all have kind of connections, like Chicago, Madison, St. Louis, and others. Knew of Nuclear Gopher. And I was in a band in northern Wisconsin, not in the religion. I was in a normal band in high school, and we just recorded an album, and I met some witnesses who were in a band. And my parents were like, my dad was in the religion. My mom was like towing the line, kind of. And I had always kind of been going, but like I was in, I was like half in, half out, if you want to say it that way. I believed a lot of it. But when I met these people in Madison, it was like, hey, have you heard of Nuclear Gopher? Like, oh, what is Nuclear Gopher? Oh, there's like Witnesses have a website. Like, yeah, check it out. Twigs Tricycle has a new album that just came out. And then like Super Medic is on here. And there's like other Wisconsin bands on there. And I'm like, I have a band. Like maybe I can put my stuff on there. And like a year later or 2 years later, I ended up moving to Minneapolis, and I got to know a lot of the people in the scene. And I also was in Madison when like a wave of Witnesses came through Madison to stop for a night before a big Weezer tour started in Chicago for the Green album. It's like Ryan was at that show and I was at the show. We never met each other that we remember. But like,
yeah, that's the funny part. Scott and I never actually crossed paths, because like the Nuclear Gopher scene was kind of considered a little bit too goody two shoes for some of the people who were more fringy.
Yeah. Like they wouldn't really let me in, kind of. They're like, who's this guy?
Scott was afraid we wouldn't let him in. And so I never got to meet the guy until he interviewed me for the movie.
Right.
Yeah, so actually, what's a fun fact is that when I interview Ryan in the movie, like what you see on the screen is the first time Ryan and I ever met in person.
Oh, really?
Like,
okay.
Oh, you came to my apartment. Don't tell me anything. We're going to sign the paper. You're going to sit in front of this camera. The audio is going to be on. And then you start talking. Hi, Ryan. Who are you?
I started trying to tell him stuff, and he's just like, no, shut up. Don't say a word.
That's a cool way to meet somebody.
Yeah,
I can't think of anybody I've met who the first thing I did was sign a document, and then I'm allowed to
right.
talk. But okay, that sounds cool.
There was a little, just so you know, there was a little foreplay, in the sense that Scott reached out to me on Facebook, and I sent him like a 13-page write-up of my general story. So we had been chatting.
There was
communication.
I mean, obviously you knew why you were meeting,
Yeah. I didn't just show up at a random stranger's house and let him film me breaking down and having an emotional catharsis.
Come this way into my bedroom.
Yes.
We
Those are the outtakes to Witness Underground that you will never see.
Well, we understand that. Of course, when you're a JW, you can imagine that, because worldly people are all immoral, right? They all do horrible things all the time.
Obviously, that's how it goes.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so as far as musical styles, I mean, or the intent of the music, I should say, or maybe the content of the music. To me, music is music. There's no such thing as moral, or immoral music. The music does not have a moral quality. I don't care if it's Beethoven's Third Symphony, or if it's, heavy death metal even. I mean, it's music, But the lyric content, of course, is going to, can easily have a focus that's, expressing certain things, not necessarily moral qualities, but so was there a point where the And you're talking about people that are writing their own songs pretty much, right?
Absolutely. It was pretty much
Yeah.
all originals. Yeah.
Yeah. So in the lyrical content, was there like a sort of a transition, or did it start off out with things that are obviously expressing angst of being raised as a witness and what they really desire in life and things like that?
Wow, that's a good question. I would say most of the lyrical content in the Nuclear Gopher music is just personal life stuff. Like people didn't really talk about, at least not explicitly talk about how they felt much about issues related to faith, or if they did, it was probably so deeply encoded you wouldn't really know it. Like there was one song I remember of my own from called Molotovs, and everything in there is this like written in cryptic code thing about a struggle with faith I was having, but I couldn't possibly have ever said that in any way that anybody would know what anything I was writing meant.
Right.
And so there's probably some more of that than I even realize. But the music really didn't talk too much about that issues of faith or whatever until probably there's plenty of music like that from those of us who have left the witnesses who were in the film. So that does come up for all of us, but not while we were in. No.
Okay. That was kind of where my question was going, is if there was like a transition where now we're out, let's write about everything. And in certain music genres, which we could maybe I'll ask you about that in a minute, but in certain music genres, there's a certain amount of obtuseness to the lyrics, especially rock music, which can encompass punk or emo or any number of things. There's a certain, it's very interpretive. It's not like somebody could say, no, I wasn't writing about my dog. I was writing about a cafe that I used to love,
Yeah, ideally, you almost want it to be that way, because at least for me, my opinion is, if music is too explicitly message based, I lose more interest. I would prefer to have it be more reflective of something I can project myself onto and resonate with than have to tell me think this or feel that, or this is what happened to me this morning.
Perfect example, Losing My Religion by REM. Okay. Very, very specific message. But if you ever look it up, Losing My Religion, I've said too much, I haven't said enough. There's like Losing My Religion is like very clear. Have I said enough? I haven't said enough, or I have said too much. It's like, for me, I was like, this is so obvious about like someone like tiptoeing around like how someone in the religion is going to think or feel about what they say or do and have an opinion, and like there's punishments and there's like all these risks associated with this like abusive structure. But if you read on Wikipedia, like, what was it about leaving religion? Did he lose his faith? Is he atheist? And there's all these questions for decades, right? And he's like, oh, it had nothing to do with religion. That was just a metaphor. And I'm like, no, but you're like, I absolutely love how clear the messaging is in that song.
No, that's a really good example. I mean, certain like folk music, true folk music. I mean, back in the day when it was protesting war or labor issues and things like that, the message had to be clear, because otherwise, what are you singing about it for? But then there was this evolution towards and rock and roll was just a lot of rebellion and dancing and love and stuff like that. But there was this evolution, I think, probably in the 70s or the 60s rather, where it became much more interpretive.
Dylan brought in the crypticism, right? I mean, like you suddenly you're going from really clear messages like Pete Seeger, and you're getting to instead something like Sad-Eyed Lady of the Lowlands or something, where it's like, okay, I don't know where we're going here exactly, but it's cool. And so there's definitely a transformation there. You haven't asked, but I will just say, as far as genres go, we didn't have any real genre consistency among Nuclear Gopher people. My brother Rhett and I had a band called the Lavone, and we just went anywhere we felt like, and our big influences were probably like Pink Floyd, the Beatles, the Moody Blues, Brian Wilson, Frank Zappa, Monty Python, just whatever came across our paths. But my like little brother was like really big into like Britpop, and he did a lot of like really like power pop type music, and my little sister and her partner Cindy in the movie, they did tons of sort of twee girl pop, and then we had people doing like experimental EDM stuff, and we like, so it was just kind of all over the place. We had one guy who did like a really nice folk album, and so it was there wasn't really a specific genre or thing uniting the Nuclear Gopher world other than the being witnesses.
I got a little short list of genres that were covered very well and deeply in the film and in the scene, which we have in our EPK, our electronic press kit. But our writing came up with, after like months of collaborating with everyone in the film, singer-songwriter, riot girl, which would be more the Chloe side of things, psychedelic rock would be more the Lavone world and the early Nuclear Gopher, and then we have some pop and EDM, and then shoegaze, and we really, really highlight the shoegaze in the film, which is by the band Day Trip. And I love that stuff. That like really hit for me. That, and then Reed's stuff, Ryan's younger brothers, like more pop, Brit pop stuff, I really loved so much.
Yeah, good, cool. Yeah, that's where I was going. Thanks for
all right.
bringing that up, Ryan.
It was all death metal.
Yes, I was actually probably going to jump onto something else and forget about it, but no, I'm glad you. So it's not like you have like a an A&R department or a the main suit that's going to talk to the people that want a label contract, and you're going to say, well, we're really not doing guitar music this year. It's
that's
pretty
Ryan
much
now.
Huh?
That's Ryan now with the reboot
now.
Of Nuclear Gopher.
Yeah.
No.
So I mean, what would be the well, I hate to use the word qualifications, but the circumstances for someone to record on that label, if you're still doing it. I'm not sure if you're still that label.
Well,
still alive.
I'm gonna be restarting it, and
okay.
The new qualifications are, I like your music and I like to work with you, and I don't really care about anything about your religion.
Yeah,
it's not
right.
It's irrelevant, right? Robert Fripp's little summary of King Crimson as energy and eclecticism, that probably comes closest to the stuff that gets me excited. But any genre that has those two things makes me pretty happy. But in the old world, a lot of times it would be like we'd meet at a party or something, and then we'd all get together and jam, and if everybody got along and if the results seemed like a good thing, it got on, or if somebody just wanted to, I don't know, if Scott had showed up with his music, I would have distributed it. Absolutely. It was great.
Well, we're doing a catch up on that. He's distributing my record now. 25 years later, 20 years later.
Probably the only, there was one case, I will admit, there was a band, and I will not name who they are, but there was one band that was a Witness band that I actually rejected from Nuclear Gopher, even though I produced and engineered their album.
Oh.
I liked them as people, and I invited them to come record at the space, but I had never heard their music, and they showed up, and it was the worst band I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah.
And I hit record. I took the headphones off. I covered my ears as best I could. I'm not sure I've ever listened to their album all the way through. Like, I got the levels right at the beginning of each track, and then I just hit mix down and gave it to them, and they thought it was the greatest thing ever. They were really happy with the result. But I did not release that one.
Yeah.
Again,
okay.
I won't name them.
So, well, no, we don't expect you to, but yeah. So obviously, there's at least a quality threshold that you have to reach. Otherwise, because I think
there's at least that, and music's in the eye of the beholder. So somebody else's quality may, they might think it's good. There's only one that I can ever remember where I was like, this is so bad, I could never even let anybody know that I was involved with this.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you a quick story and we'll get back to you. I did a record years ago. I guess I would call it full length in the sense of vinyl being like 40, 45 minutes, but it was a CD. And it was my response to a ridiculous PBS show that I saw about a band that I can't even remember now that was so awful. And they were talking about these people like this. People think Sgt. Pepper and Dark Side of the Moon are the albums to listen to. No, this is the one. And I thought, is this a parody? Is this some kind of a satire? I don't think it was. They were seriously. And these guys were terrible in every sense of the word. So I deliberately wrote an album. I wrote the lyrics in an hour to every song. I just typed whatever the hell it was, And then I said, okay, I guess this Saturday I'm going to record it. And I had no musical ideas for any of it. I just started playing something. and I wanted it to be as lousy as possible, which is actually very difficult to do. I mean, I'm not saying I'm a great musician, but it's actually difficult to deliberately make something sound really crappy.
Yeah.
And I put it out. I could tell you the name of it, but you might look it up and blame me. But well, it was called Bloody Weather anyway. But I got blowback from people that were like, "Who does this guy think he is? Telling us this is great. This guy obviously doesn't know what the hell he's talking about." Like the whole thing was a joke, guys. You could tell by the lyrics alone that it's like. So it was like suicidal because I was actually trying to promote some music I had done that was hopefully good, you know. So
When you
yeah,
go
so
tongue in cheek about stuff like that, like when you try to bring a bit of a sense of humor or irony or sarcasm in, not
Yeah.
everybody's always going to connect with that, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a
Well, I mean,
Levant album that starts with a country western song about a truck driver who's obsessed with plastic surgery, then goes into 9 minutes of guitar feedback, and I thought that was an awesome start to a record. But
okay.
I was thinking, if you don't like this, you shouldn't be listening to the Levant, where this is like a litmus test.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. No, I get it. You know, you mentioned Monty Python before, so which obviously makes me think of Neil Innes
Oh yeah.
the Bonzos.
Yep.
And there's one song. I mean, most of their stuff is comedic in the sense that it's terrible. I mean, it's supposed to be. But
Yep.
Neil Innes was actually a really good songwriter.
Oh
One
yeah,
song
and the
in
Ruddles
particular, I think.
soundtrack is freaking phenomenal.
What is it?
The Ruddles?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's great. I mean, it's obviously.
And
Well,
Neil
some of the
Innes did
songs are
most of
very
that
derivative
songwriting.
of the Beatles songs. It was satiring, but
Yeah.
some of it was just like this is a typical John Lennon thing, like that Cheese and Onion song.
Oh
It's
yeah.
typical John Lennon, but it actually doesn't evoke any song. So
No.
it was really brilliant. But I think it's Canyons of My Mind is a song that the Bonzos did that it's been described as having the worst guitar solo ever. And it is. It's terrible. But and again, like I said, how do you actually play that badly and stay in context of the record? It was really, but everybody got the joke. I hope. I don't think anybody listens to the record and say, "Oh my God, these guys are terrible." So
Oh, no,
anyway,
I mean there are signifiers all over the Bonzos, including their own name as the Bonzo Dog Doodah Band.
right?
You
Yeah,
hopefully you pick up on it, right?
yeah, and the way they dress in their shows and all. Yeah, it's pretty. So anyway, getting back to you guys. So you take the concept of the witnesses recording, whether they were in or out, at
Mhm.
what point in time we're talking about, and now we're making a film about the whole story, not just of the record label, but of the story, the personal stories, right,
Yep.
of some of these people.
Essentially, the backbone of the story is Ryan's story, who's here, Ryan Sutter.
Mhm.
And then we also interweave it with 4 other artists who were part of the Nuclear Gopher scene. And all of them were connected in terms of their exits from the religion and the music and films that they made and music videos that they
Mhm.
made. And over the course of like a 4 or 5 year period, they went from all being witnesses and in the music scene as like the core members of the scene. There's like probably 30 people who were like super active at the time, something maybe 40, something like that. A bunch of bands.
Yeah,
And a
depends on
bunch
how
of
you
bands
look
over
at it, but yeah.
a long period of time. There was a lot more. And eventually, like the vast majority of people got out, and it was all kind of like a cascade event. Like, well, this person got out and they said this, and then Ryan wrote a blog, and someone read that blog, and they were like, oh, what about this? And there's like usually someone gets kicked out, and there's a barrier erected between like people that are in, people that are out.
Mhm.
But because this community's bond, there's communication that transferred over that barrier. It wasn't pretty always, and it wasn't so direct always, but
Yeah.
there was
really
ideas being
indirect.
traded.
It was really indirect, Gary, because in a lot of the communication Scott's referring to was literally me just blogging into the air, not knowing anybody was reading it. And then
Mhm.
people were still reading it because we had been part of this thing together. And then it, dominoes started to fall. And, for a few years after I left, and I was kind of all alone in the universe, I just would start getting phone calls every now and then, like everybody else who's in the movie at one point called me up and was like, hey, guess what? I'm not a witness anymore. And and so it was really kind of cool because like for at least the first year and a half, I didn't have any of that. It was just kind of, like, oh, I'm just out, it's over, Nuclear Gopher shut down, everything's done. My family's really hardcore about the shunning, so it was really, like pretty bad. And then but then people were secretly reading stuff I was writing, and people started to have their own crises of conscience, and pretty soon there's now a whole scene of us who are out, which is pretty cool.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I'm actually one of those people. And
Okay.
the most indirect and like farthest into the future person. All those ideas that were filtering through the community were getting to me as part of the fringe of the community, on the outside of the community in Minneapolis. And then after I moved away, and they were originating in Ryan's blog and the internet in general, and also James, the author that we feature in the film, who's a close friend of Ryan's. He wrote Deliverance at Hand, Redemption of a Devout Jehovah's Witness. It's a book. And he's he's a big activist. So those ideas were like filtering through everybody in the community, and then also to me, because I was friends with kind of like the second wave of Nuclear Gopher people, and sort of on the fringes of it, but close friends with some of the people, especially Eric Alvendal. And and then eventually I reached out to Ryan, and I was one of those phone calls like, hey, I know you exist. And then he's like, oh yeah, here's my 12-page like super life story. And then I was like, all right, we're doing an interview, get to Denver. And he flew to Denver for a work trip, and we made it happen. And that became the backbone of the movie. It was like such a solid interview and such a complete story that I was like, this is like the best interview. Like, I definitely want to put this out as an episode, but maybe there's something deeper here. And we crowdfunded the film, and then went to Minneapolis. We're like, hey, is everybody else in this community that I already was connected to, like, do you guys want to do this? And they're like, yeah, why not? Kind of like casual, like, yeah, that sounds cool. Let's make a fun movie.
And
we pulled it together.
There's
so what
some
you see is sort of the results.
Performance in the movie as well. And the funny part about that was when Scott's saying, he kind of came back and was like, got other people casually. So he goes and he gets everybody interviewed and he's all this stuff. And he's like, can we, like, it would be awesome if we could like have you guys all get together and play music. And just like the way that the video of me in the movie is the first time Scott ever met me, Scott shows up with a camera crew, and everything live music in the film is stuff we had never played together before either. So
including the drummer had never even heard the songs.
I had never met the drummer. Scott showed up, and we literally like cleared out a building on my property. We set up all the gear. In the movie, you see us literally walking stuff out there and putting it in the building and setting it up, and we were unrehearsed completely. Like and that combination of people, we'd never actually even played together, the five of us. So
wow.
It's cool. It's cool. It feels sometimes like the stuff from this movie just sort of came together like magic. It's I kind of like that. That's what I was thinking.
I worked really, really hard for everyone else to feel like it was magic.
That's true. Scott has worked his butt off on this thing.
Right.
One thing, if we can just derail further,
Sure.
There's this band Afterklung who I came across. They played at this music and film festival in Boulder, Colorado, where I used to live. And they have this song, Alike, that's amazing. And they go to this island in Denmark. They're from Denmark. And it's like the whole town community comes together in this building, and like all these different kind of people playing shakers and different stuff and singing. And it felt a little bit like that, what we were putting together. Like, let's get everybody from the community to like make it seem like we're playing in a band. And also a lot of people mistake like the live performances for the band Nuclear Gopher, which is not what it is. Nuclear Gopher was like an entire community of hundreds of kids,
right,
teens and others. So there's a bit of a misrepresentation there, but I also wanted to like use the skills I learned in Vietnam, where I made my first film. It was like almost like a student like thesis film called Hanoi Mixtape, and it's about, we cover like 35 different musical groups across Southeast Asia, mostly Vietnamese and like international plus Vietnamese like mixed bands who were based in Hanoi. And it's sort of like I developed a 2-camera style system where we kind of like move around the artists when they're performing live and capture the audience, capture the ambiance. And I wanted to do something new that was like taking all those skills I had learned over like 5-year period in Vietnam filming and making that film and learning all those things, and bring that, like pull all these pieces together and like open the film with it and have a transition from the past of Nuclear Gopher to the post Nuclear Gopher, all the post cult escapees who are making music that will help them, transition to the world, to put their ideas out into the world. And then also like, all right, here's the fucking pinnacle of the project. Here's one of the best songs by High TV, rocking out. Like we took the best of it to finish the film. Like here's where they got to. It's like this whole rise. And I feel like the emotional arc is like carried through, and also like the time, like this is a music community, and they kept on making music into the present day, which is true.
Mm-hmm.
There's
Cool.
like 17 albums came out after everyone left their religion tied to this group, and they're all so much, like not so much better, but like the quality of technology and the skill level just like amplified, and they had something really, really powerful to say. It wasn't just like, oh, my girlfriend like didn't say hi to me type, like my life stuff, teenager songs. It's like, I'm making a prayer to no one. Like, who am I really praying to is like part of the processing, Cindy's writing
right.
song. And like,
Well,
it gets
that's
really
an
deep.
interesting point you just made though too, Scott, even about the technology was like a lot of the post exit stuff is like really, the fact that we've all gotten to keep doing it, we've all gotten a lot better at it. And some of the old Nuclear Gopher stuff from like 30 years ago is like, 4-track cassette, like, lo-fi indie stuff that it's got its charms. It's cool. And I love much of it. But yeah, it's pretty great that we've gotten to keep doing it. And then for a lot of us, it kind of was our education on music, because you didn't get that through any other means. But we got our music and recording engineering technology education served under the Nuclear Gopher, and then we're like, okay, let's keep going. Now we can open up the topics, and we can be more honest, and the songwriting can get better. So
Right. So that kind of leads me to another question. Well, earlier, toward the beginning, I think Scott said something about the power of music to heal and to, in this case, heal, religious trauma, or even maybe the power to, but all the realizations that we have to go through to get out. I mean, it's a big conundrum, obviously. Like, what gets people out? Is it doctrines? Not usually. It's usually something that just hurt them because somebody was because they're being shunned, or something like that, and the doctrines come last, typically, whatever it is. But there's a whole process for accepting the fact that it's okay to question this, and then doing the questioning, and then what do you do about it? How do you shed all the trauma, this and that? Music can obviously help in all of those ways, in all those areas. But I mean, maybe we could just talk about that a little bit. I'll just tell you really quickly that I recently did a piece on neuroplasticity. We might even have discussed this, I forget, but specifically about how it relates to cognitive dissonance and how that can prevent people from making progress or keep them stuck or accept new ideas that probably aren't a good idea to accept, but specifically how music can greatly enhance neuroplasticity, whether we know what's happening or not. And that can help in ways that are not even tied to the music, in terms of just being more open-minded toward new ideas. Because if you're really a musician and you listen to Bach for the first time, you don't say, oh, that's 400 years old, that's garbage, or you don't listen to a new, rap record and say, that's rap, I'm not going to listen to that. So it tends to make you open-minded, and it creates these neural pathways. So that's a little bit about the piece that I did. But how would you relate that all to the effect that music has on the people that create it, as well as the people that are listening to it? I mean, first, I guess the people who create it. I mean, that has actually helped. You said before that it kind of helps the process of getting out.
Well, I can speak to myself more than anything. For me, so I have kind of a series of solo albums that I did in the process of leaving, and each one of them helped me in a different way. So the first one was when I hadn't told anybody. I started working on it when I was sort of fighting with whether I was going to even admit I didn't believe anymore. I had made my discoveries on the doctrinal front that are the things I didn't believe in, and I wrote like 2 songs that gave me an outlet to kind of say something I couldn't tell anybody yet. And then after I left, I immediately wanted to record another album where I could like actually say what I felt like I was learning and what I was doing. So I did that, and during the recording of that one, my brother passed away, and so I wound up using I had written a song specifically about him that I never got a chance to play for him. That's on that album, and I the last time I ever talked to him, I even told him that. I was like, "Oh, I wrote this song that I want you to hear that is about you," and then I never got to. So going through the process of recording that record was also extremely therapeutic for me. It just helped me process how I was feeling about things that were happening in real time. And then I kept doing that for about 2-3 years. I kept just finding there was more stuff I had to say, and that saying it in music gave me some sort of peace. And the nice part about, for me at least, doing it as a recording artist is to be able to go back and listen to it later and revisit myself at that period in time in a way that's almost like objective or third party, you know, like you don't have to just keep reliving the trauma in your head. You can also like go tell yourself how you felt about it and how you resolved it and re-experience that. And so I have this one song on the 3rd record I did after I left. There's a song called Patterns Imprinted on Stars, and every time for like 2 or 3 years, every time I would feel like I was getting lost again, or like I was kind of losing my grip and like trying to figure out what the hell was happening, I could go back and replay that and hear myself telling myself it's okay, you know? And so for me at least, and I've been recording music my whole life. I mean, I've got recordings going back when I was like 7 years old. So I've always kind of almost like journaled my life by the songs that I made at various stages along the way, and I can sort of go back and hear my own voice from those times, and that can help me get perspective on where I'm at now. And so you know, I don't know how everybody else has wound up using it, but it was kind of funny because after I kind of got through the real fire of the first couple of years of leaving, and then I was like, well, what am I going to write about now? You know, it was like, they still have a life. There's still things to write about. You still have feelings. Right. But it was, for me, it was like the ultimate in therapy was to be able to sing about what I wanted to sing about and to be able to listen back to it. And I still do it. I still, if I get, you know, even just talking about Patterns Imprinted on Stars, I almost got choked up again. And it's, you know, it's not like a vanity thing of like, oh, I love to listen to my own music because I'm so brilliant. It's more like a message to yourself in the future, you know? And I think that is a wonderful thing to be able to do. And the fact that I can also listen to my brother, I can listen to my grandfather because he was a home recordist. I can listen to voices that are gone and like people that I know and love who aren't here anymore, either because of the shunning situation or in some cases because they died. And I just think having recordings like that can hopefully help people while they're making them, but I know it helps me to have them to go back to. So I don't know if that totally answers your question, but that, for me, that's how the process has worked.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, so that tend to make me think that any new artists that you've got, you know, anyone recording now, I mean, not new artists, but you know, people that have been with you for 20 years and people that are just joining the team, that I guess their music is probably going to reflect the point they are in their journey, whether they're just now getting out, they're dealing with shunning or whatever. But
or they have no connection to Jehovah's Witnesses whatsoever. I mean, like I said, it's not really part of the thing anymore. Right.
And that's what I was going to say, is the fact that these people have the past connection with the witnesses some kind of a factor that's going to help somebody that like let somebody say someone's watching this video is really fascinated with the concept of listening to music made by ex-Jehovah's Witnesses that get me and they get the whole thing. But yet they're not really singing specifically about that. They're singing about, you know, a new relationship or some social issue or whatever it is. I mean, I know the answer to this already, but I want to give you the chance to answer. I mean, can that have a positive effect on the listener who's maybe expecting it was going to be about how much they hated the book study, or something like that?
If somebody's looking for, the songs about how much they hated book study, they probably won't be big Nuclear Gopher fans in the future.
Uh-huh.
Because I think I already expressed I'm not a huge topical music guy.
Yeah.
I think music's got to be bigger than that. And actually, to
Yeah.
plug to the movie, I think the movie is bigger than that too. Like the movie is not just all Jehovah's Witness, Jehovah's Witness, Jehovah's Witness. It's more about like, the witnesses are the specific context of what happened to us specifically. But like being creative, showing love to each other, using creativity to process how you get hurt. Like a lot of people who have seen the movie who have never talked to a Jehovah's Witness before still connect to that. And I like to think that music in general, even when we were doing Nuclear Gopher, we didn't put on nucleargopher.com, we are all Jehovah's Witnesses. We just put up our music. Right? So people listened to it and they connected or they didn't. And I hope it keeps going that way. That's kind of my philosophy with it. So if somebody's like, hey, I should be released on nucleargopher.com because when we relaunch the label because I'm an ex-witness and I'm angry, those aren't really the qualifying factors.
Right. Yeah, I know with my music in particular, I mean, because I've written a lot of songs, and toward the end of my sojourn with the Witnesses, which is 40 years total, I wrote maybe a half a dozen songs that are, I don't even think that was my intent at the time, but they reflected my very negative experience that was progressively getting more negative with them.
Mm-hmm.
And then since I'm out, well, I haven't written quite as many songs anyway because I don't have the recording facility here, but I really can't think of any I've written that really go into like, oh boy, I'm free. I just really can't think of any because, and that's kind of where I was hoping that your answer was going to go, is that if we still are having any kind of an emotional connection with the Watchtower as a trauma deliverer to us from the past, hopefully it's just to remember, like, yeah, wow, look at where I was and look at where I am now. This is unbelievable.
Yeah.
My
new album that I'm working on doesn't have any topical songs about anything related to this.
Right.
And because it's not where I am anymore. And but I also respect where people are. Like I've heard some stuff that there's a couple of other artists associated to the project here who have also done their trilogies of their exit music and their trauma processing stuff, and some of it's really great, and if that's where somebody is at the moment and they're writing honest music about it, I respect that to death. Right. Like,
I want to plug them.
I do think it's super important to move on though with your life.
Yeah.
And when that stops being the main topic of your music, it's probably a good sign.
Right. And I know you wanted to plug something, but just real quickly, that speaks to the interpretive nature of music. It's like, if somebody is just now getting out and dealing with trauma, even though a song is not specifically talking about that, it might be talking about, a failed relationship, romantic relationship. If they want to get what they can out of that and it helps them, that's great. But if they're closer to where the writer and the performer was, emotionally and in terms of their journey, they'll get something different about it. It's everybody can benefit and everybody can enjoy it as well. Did you mean you actually wanted to plug something?
Yeah.
Literally?
Oh,
Scott? Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, I'm guessing Ryan is talking about a few of the people we've had on the Witness Underground podcast. So the movie is the thing we're raising money for in the crowdfund. And it's got Nuclear Gopher music as like here's this thing you can get. And there's post Nuclear Gopher music, which is like what we really, really highlight in the film as like whoa, look how awesome this got. And look how cool this process is for all these artists who like became these rock gods after leaving. It was like this unleash. But that is past, right? So we're talking about the nostalgic aspect of a documentary. But the process or the project is also a modern day thing because we kept finding other artists who've also left this religion and others, and we're bringing them on the podcast to show what music they're making now or just have made or what album they've come out with. And so like I usually Ryan and I co-host this, and one that we came across was Wesley David, who came out with his vinyl and digital record, Never Late Than Better. And it's his, like, he left like when he was 18 or 20, and it's been like 15, 18 years or something. But he just put this album out that's like about that topic. So it's like still fresh in his mind. He wants to get these ideas out. And then like the trilogy that Ryan, I think, mentioned is The Bloody Tuesdays by David Quesada. And for me, this is like one of my favorite episodes I've ever done. I made like a 2-part YouTube channel episode where Ryan and I interviewed him, and it was just like the perfect flow. And I spent a lot of time really highlighting his music. He has 3 albums that just like knocked out after leaving, right? He left in 2019, right before the pandemic, and just was like, he has one, Stranded on Saturn, and like it has the album art. It's Saturn was the street he was living on where the studio he rented exists. He's like knocked out, trees tracked for like every evening he could. And he's like a dad with 3 kids. He put out Stranded on Saturn. It has like the Hydra from Revelation book, like being cast away from heaven into a lake on earth or whatever. And it's like, whoa, the art is crazy, but it's like, it's the religious art, right? And the music, a lot of the songs are really, really topical. He even has like a Kingdom song in there in melody, but he changes the lyrics to be something funny, like a twist on it. And there's a lot of really topical stuff. And he does Hymns of a Millennial's Dawn, and all the album art is like the 144,000 spirit creatures are going to live in some future dystopian space, outer space, and they're like glowing in the light of their deity. But like he changed and he has like the frogs from like some part of the, I don't know, one of the religion's books dancing over them, and all their eyes are gouged out and they're bleeding. And there's like the skeleton rainbow Jesus face. Like, it's just like, oh my God, the album art is like so referencing all of the Revelation book stuff in like a really dark, cryptic way. And it's like a lot of really dark themes, and the music's all like, a lot of it's really tied to the religion. He quotes the governing body in there and like distorts their voices and makes them sound even creepier. And we even use that to open our film, and also this trailer in the Kickstarter. And then his 3rd album, To See the Process, is called Bloodless, also a reference to the religion, but almost not one single song is an obvious topical connection to the religion. So like in 3 albums you knocked out in like 6 months or a year, you have this like deep dive into all this stuff he wanted to say, and all this art he wanted to like parody in a way to say something important and change the lyrics. And then you have this 3rd album, which is like, wow, the quality level raised, his like songwriting got tighter and catchier, and then it became about life. And he's got 3 more albums in him, according to last time we talked. So he's still working on stuff. And I absolutely love his work. Just plug. And so all those records I just mentioned by Wesley David and David Quesada, The Bloody Tuesdays, are a part of our project. And so it's not just the movie, and it's not just a Nuclear Gopher nostalgia piece, but it's like, no, this is happening right now all over the place. And so we're like trying to collect all the artists that we can find who've left this faith and other similar situations. There's a lot of other religions like it, right? And other situations that are also abusive and difficult. And music and art is a way to help process it. And so we're like, that's what the podcast is about. And it's so much fun, and I love doing it. So all of the Kickstarter that we're running right now is about like growing all of that. It's like it's our big way to like spread the ideas.
Okay. Now, how would someone, find out more about getting involved with that, like as a contributor or what have you?
Oh,
To the
well, there's a link.
We have a Discord server, and witnessunderground.com is currently redirecting over to the Kickstarter with all that information.
Okay.
So witnessunderground.com is the spot for now.
Okay.
It's simple, easy to remember.
Yeah. All right. And you've got it right behind you. I mean, we could see it.
Oh yeah.
It does. Yeah. Yeah. We know we can fill in the missing letters. The brain does that. We can fill in the missing letters. Yeah. So cool. So and what?
You can't read my background, Gary?
No. It's gonna. I don't know what that is. Is that a blur of your actual background or something?
It is actually. Yeah. I'm
Okay.
in the Nuclear Gopher studio right now.
Yeah, I've got this terrible lighting. I don't know what's going on here, but I got every light on in the place I can think of.
Guitars and drums and stuff.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Well, I probably have a violin back there, which is for sale, by the way. If anybody wants that violin,
Nice.
have it.
Real Stradivarius.
No, it really is.
Yeah.
What was I going to? Oh, yeah. So, I mean, I hate to be trite and obvious and everything, but you kind of hinted at it. But what's the rationale, or not the rationale, but why would crowdfunding be necessary? I mean, does it really cost that much money to make a movie? You know, that type of, you know what I'm saying? Like, because The Witness, because
it costs like triple that to make this movie.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So the rationale is so crowdfunding is two things, right? It's the audience and then the support through financing to make something happen. And we live in a capitalistic society. And what we really want is people to spread the message. If you can do nothing else, just sharing the news that this thing is happening is huge, because it's a cascade thing. It reaches beyond your own network. It's not, and like people are, if you're going to share something, people are excited to see something that's not war, and it's not like what politicians are saying. So it's like, oh, some friend made a piece of art that's inspiring. Yeah, I would totally want to share that. Like people are excited to see that. So people are asking me like, well, I don't really share stuff on Facebook. Nobody does. Nobody shares anything on Facebook. So like, but try it because it's something you really believe in. But so part of it, like the main thing we're really trying to get is the crowd. And so we did like a soft release of the movie in March, and it's been about 6 months, right? Or October. So we have about 200 people have seen our movie, but we were hoping for somewhere in the hundreds of thousands would be pretty cool. Like maybe like 1000x that number would be pretty awesome, just to get things rolling. And so, you know, we've reached out to ex-witnesses everywhere thinking they'd be an obvious, like, yeah, that sounds awesome. Let's check it out. And I have people still writing me now, the campaign's running. They're like, oh, I've been wanting to watch this. How is it, like, how does it work? And we're like, well, we've been trying a lot of things. So this is our big push to like get it out into the world. And crowdfund is one of those ways that like takes a year's worth of talking about something. I've been on 30 podcasts talking about this thing. I've been on lots of YouTube channels talking about this, on people in the religion, people who never were in the religion, all different kinds of channels. And we get like 2 or 3 people like check out our website from each episode. And it's like, okay, that trickle doesn't make any sense. Let's get 30 people to talk every single day for 30 days about this thing in some way on the internet and do shows like this. And then we're condensing like a year or 2 of advertising into like a 1-month period. And then we'll have money to then do the distribution. So the big thing is release and distribution. And there's a lot to what that is. Like, I mean, I can get into the details, but it's like, you know, how the sausage is made is we have to do like QC. So we have to like run it through a process. And then someone at a film executive, you know, group or a marketing group is going to be like, oh, this thing doesn't comply with, the subtitles aren't quite perfect. Like, go do it again. You know, like we've been doing this for 2 years, working on like the perfecting of getting it onto something like Amazon and Apple TV and Tubi, which are like the big ones we want to like hit. And there's like 35 more, and they all have like a certain standard, and there's like 100 moving pieces to that. And there's a lot of people that are in the way and a lot of gatekeeping. So like we're navigating, we found a path, but we're going to need to, we want people to know about this, like people know about Barbie. And so like, yeah, getting it on a distribution platform is one thing, but if it's on Apple TV, yeah, so are like 170,000 other titles. Like, how are someone going to know it even exists? So that's like where there's like a marketing angle. And we partnered with Justin Giddings, who helped us get into all the film festivals back when we did that run, and we won an award. So like, there's a lot of like external validation. Like, hey, it's not just like, oh, you made a cool YouTube video, good job, guys. Like, keep on going with your activism. No, we made a legit film that the public thinks is important and values it. Like, if you get into a film festival, it's like 1 to 5% of all films that are submitted get in. So like, we get into 11. It's like, that's already like huge validation. But we really want to get it on these big streaming platforms so people don't have to go on the internet, watch a movie on their laptop with laptop speakers or headphones. Like, sit down on your couch, go to the normal streaming service and get it. Right. And part of that, like partnering with Justin Giddings and the Film Festival Mastery Group, the Kickstarter guy, the Greenlight Yourself, that's are all his film path accelerator programs. We're in those, and he's on our team as one of our production team members. And he's released like 300 plus films. And he knows what he's doing. So he's on our team now because we partnered with him for this campaign and also into the future. So he's helping us navigate the difficult waters of the tumultuous film industry, and to release a proper indie. And it's been like a 2-year learning curve on how to do that. We know how to do it, but the funds are like what we require to get it out. And it's
right.
So that's like the long spiel, I guess. But yeah.
No, that's good. No, I'm glad you because I mean, most people don't understand. I wouldn't have understood all the detail. I know how to release a record maybe, but not a movie. So yeah, we need to know that. And also it's good to know that as individuals, just me sitting in my little kitchen here, little old me, that I could actually do something just by the way I use social media. Perhaps I could donate $25 or 50 or 100, whatever it is. But even if I can't, or in addition to that, I can actually get the word out. So, like I told you, I don't even remember who they are, but various people who I never heard of before have been posting links to this 3-minute video in a couple of the I call post JW groups, ex-JW groups, which is really, really super helpful. I mean, that's very much appreciated. I mean, in addition to that, when it comes, I know this especially from having been a radio DJ years ago with a radio station that got sold. So we were struggling to maintain a presence and figure out how to get the internet version going and everything. And it's kind of simple. Just like I know Facebook, I don't know about a lot of the other social media platforms, but I know with Facebook, if you just share something and just post a link to this thing with whatever you want to say about it, and always do it with public, even if you have your thing usually set to friends only or specific friends. Do it to public, because every time one of your friends likes it, other people find out about it. That are not even your friends. It's just a really great way to do that. And then when you see somebody post something, like it. It's really easy to do. Just hit the like button. I don't care if you see it 50 times by different people, like it every time.
Yeah.
And then, it just sort of, that's with Facebook anyway.
Yeah, no, you bring up a really great point I want to bring up. So we did a big push over the last month to try to find core team members, and we got like 10 people involved who are like really helping do the outreach on the back end. So thank you to the core team members. And then we're also looking for what we call street team. And so we're a little bit late in finding street team members. And what that is exactly what you're talking about. Facebook is the #1 way to promote this campaign in terms of a reach. And we're really, really focusing on that. So if you go to our Witness Underground Facebook, there's a pinned video, and it's exactly the one that's been shared everywhere that you've been seeing. It's the campaign video with a bunch of text, and then the video that you can watch. That video, if you like, comment, and share it, you can do it every single day. But if you just do it once, it helps us. It takes 45 seconds to hit those 3 buttons and put it somewhere. Like, say hi, and then share. That hacks the algorithm. And just like you said, it doesn't just reach like your few friends. The algorithm will just now put it in front of the public, because it's getting exactly the kind of attention that the Facebook algorithm wants to see on their platform. And then it goes way beyond your personal bubble and way beyond the XJW bubble, which is, we really want the public to see this. Not, you don't have to be an ex-witness to appreciate this movie. We really want to affect public awareness of this thing. And also people really connect to the film, no matter what their background is. Because we really humanize.
I'd like to explicitly ask that anybody watching or listening to this right now, if you do think this is something worth doing, just help us get the word out. And it doesn't have to be to just people who have a connection to the witnesses. I've been learning as we go along. Scott knows that I'm not a social media person, so I don't.
He has 15 typewriters at least.
Yeah, at least. Which is ironic because I'm a tech guy, but that's a whole side thing I'm not going to go down. What I was going to say is, we sent out all this kind of broad, contact to try to promote and get people to come to the Kickstarter earlier this week. And one of the pieces of advice we got was basically, don't be discriminating. Don't presume who's going to be interested and who isn't. Just tell everybody and be gentle about it. Let them know you're sharing. Don't be a sales pitch jerk. But at the end of the day, I've been looking at some of the feedback I've been getting and people reaching out back to me just over the last day or two here. They're not the people that have any connection to the witnesses. I've been seeing money. I've been getting communication from people who I would have never known would have had an interest in this topic. So, so the best thing that we can ask for, I mean, nobody's going to become multimillionaires because this is not Titanic or a Marvel movie here. It's a documentary. We want people to see it, and we want the people to see it to be anybody, whether you don't go see a documentary about somebody who treks to the North Pole because you trekked to the North Pole. You go because you're there to learn about the topic and the thing. And this movie is not really made to be like a a piece of, ex-JW YouTube content. This is made to be a documentary film about a bigger thing. And so that's kind of also why we're doing this Kickstarter, really just its visibility and try to get it to break out of that bubble and get people to see it. So again, direct ask, anybody hearing my words right now, please just, if you think this is worth it, just tell some people about it, share about it.
Right.
That's what we need.
And to get the nuts and bolts of crowdfunding, Justin's whole program, Justin Giddings, the program we're in to like make this work, it's all about a numbers game. So his thing is it's 5% of people who click on the thing will put money into it. So we're totally agnostic about who sees the thing because we're really just playing a numbers game. We're not asking people for money. We're like, check out the cool thing we made. And I actually made the video is like a remix of the entire documentary with Ryan and I, and it's so funny. Like, and it made me tear up a little bit making it. And it's like, I mean, we smash like the logo with a sledgehammer into a television, and then a TV pops up with a nuclear blast, and you see Ryan look like a cult leader. And it's like, it's so goofy, and like I had such a good time making it. Like, just watch the video because it's fucking funny.
Cool. Okay. Cool. Yeah, and I was going to say the different genres of music that you. What was that? I'm sorry.
I'm not a cult leader, just for the record.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's important. Yeah, I thought we were jumping from the frying pan into the fire here for a minute. I don't know. Anyway, what was I going to say? I forgot what I was going to say. About the genres that we talked about. So it's not the movie's not just about music. And if it was, all right, why would I be interested in this movie if I didn't like, I don't know, neo punk or whatever it is, because it's not about the genres of music. It might, maybe you like jazz, but you still just pay attention to this and see what these people are doing, because it's kind of their story of why they're doing it, how they're benefiting, how they do it. It's just a great story. I mean, to me, it's almost like you said something about going to the North Pole. If I want to watch those, I don't know, let's say the Buddy Holly story. That's a really old one, but the Buddy Holly story. I don't even have to really like Buddy Holly as a musician, but it's a great story. It's a rags to riches story. So so yeah, and definitely share it, because your friends will like it for different reasons. I was going to. Movie.
I'm just gonna say it's a damn good movie. I was nervous. I didn't make it. Scott made it, but I'm in it. And if Scott had made a terrible movie, I'd be sad, but I'd still be in it because I already agreed and signed the piece of paper. So it's a really good movie. I've yet to hear anybody see it and be like, yeah, it wasn't actually very good. Like, everybody loves the movie. And that's
I've gotten like 50 love letters from the 200 people that have watched it, and they're like, "Oh my god, I cried 4 times." And I shared it with
more than 200 people at the film festival showing in Minneapolis. So more than 200 people have seen the movie.
Well, I tell you, I don't really seek out a lot of JW related stuff, and I don't mean just JW, but I mean even like I'll just give you an example. I've watched Witness, which I thought was really good. I think it was called Apostasy.
In the 80s? Apostasy's, Apostasy's great.
Apostasy was very good. And the Jesus Jerk movie was really good. It was kind of
Tony Duchesne.
Yeah. And I talked with Tony about it. It's been a while, but
I love Tony. Everyone check out Tony's podcast, the Drinks with Tony. It's all about authors, and he never once talks about a book in that podcast. It's hilarious.
Yeah. I think I started watching that at your suggestion, and I don't know what happened, but I got to finish watching it tonight. Yeah. But I thought that movie started out, I thought, very comedic, and then it all of a sudden got really serious. I was like, whoa. Yeah. I'm like laughing my head off at this stuff, all the masturbation stuff, the guy in the trailer and all that.
Oh my god, it's so cringy.
Great stuff. But then all of a sudden it's like really, really grim. Well, the thing that those movies have in common, or something that you kind of touched on before, is that they have a trigger kind of quality to them. I mean, because they're serious topics. I mean, if you're an ex-witness and you don't get what's going on in apostasy, so obviously it's going to leave some people angry at the end of the day, which I don't think it's okay. It's a reaction, and that's a part of the grief process. But we don't want to. I say we, but we really don't want to be like in anger mode every time we turn the TV on. It seems to me, just from what I know about the project so far, I've listened to some of the music, but by no means all of it, that it's not going to trigger anything. It's just going to be watching people who have made something of their lives that, hey, maybe I can do the same. Maybe I won't be able to be a musician anytime soon, but hey, look at this. These people are successfully out of this mess and doing great things. And they didn't tell their whole life story about how narcissistic their dad was, and he, all this crazy, crazy stuff that stories usually have, which is fine, unto itself, if people want to tell that story and people want to hear it. But I think sometimes we really want to, hear something that's like what's going on in the world that's good,
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
It's
there's
not a
definitely
Jerry
a huge.
Springer movie. It's not a
No.
Jerry Springer movie.
Yeah.
There's a huge element of it gets better. Like life, once you get past this phase, get past it. Work hard to get past it, and then it's like this. You can land on the outside and you can reflect and be like level about it and show, like, understand the people that are in it and understand the system that they're stuck in. They're trapped. Like they're not really, it's almost impersonal towards you, even though it feels really personal at the time. And maybe like you're pointing on something that these other films do, which maybe I could frame it better. I'm going to work on this, but there's like the multiple steps of grieving process that could start out with like disillusionment, and then like anger and helplessness. I don't know what order they're in, but there's sort of like okay, and then I can look back and just be okay with the process. And I feel like a lot of those films just like get stuck in the anger phase, or the like disbelief phase, or the oh my God, like my whole life's, the carpet is ripped out from underneath me. Everything's destroyed, and like all my relationships have died. Like a lot of films sort of like tell you about that, and then you're just there. That's how the film ends. And not commenting on any particular film that we've mentioned, but there's a lot of darkness to talk about, and those films point that out. But I feel like we get to that, we make a point in the movie, and then maybe we skip a few steps in the grieving process, but like there's this whole landing and calming down, and like a big, okay, that was heavy stuff. And we land, and and you get to see sort of like a celebration, and like there's this positive element to the that we land the audience with, that I feel like was our intention from the beginning. And I feel like we did something that's kind of new in the space, probably.
Right. So I guess you don't really have an idea. I mean, you talked about, the crowdfunding or the whole crowd support thing, and kind of a timetable of what you expect. But in terms of like when the film is really, I mean, I guess it's hard to say because you're talking about indie festivals and stuff, but is there like a target date to be completely done with the film and ready for release?
The film is completely done. It is like in a staging area with some distribution path that we're in. And so it's completely wrapped. Well, the only thing we're going to do is we're going to do one last cut, because we're part of the campaign allows you to get associate producer credit or co-producer credit or executive producer credit. So we have to recut it to change the names at the end of the movie. And that is the only thing we're changing. Everything else is staying the same. And everything, all the contracts are set, all the, everything's solid. And we have promised there's like the $25 level, you get the movie as a digital download. And at 50, you get the soundtrack with it, which is really exciting, because that goes straight to the artists. Like we have, like, that's for the artists and you're supporting them. And it's a really, really great soundtrack. There's like, we use 42 songs in the film. So we'll have like the highlights of those in the soundtrack. A lot of them some of it's instrumental and like odd stuff, but there's a really, really great, powerful music in there. Ryan's going to be releasing probably a playlist during the campaign, which I'm really excited about. He gave me a preview of it. It's super cool. But anyway, so we have the film, it's done, and we promise that it will be delivered in digital format to you next month at the end of the campaign. So no one, when you pledge, you're not actually getting charged at all. So putting your pledge in, you can always rescind that, but like no one's getting charged when they support, but know that you're going to get the digital download before the end of November. That is our promise. And then when it comes to the physical merch, before the holidays. So we have to go have a few things pressed and create the DVDs, but it'll be shipped to you this year for sure, the finished version of the film. And once the campaign is done and we're successful, we will hit submit, and it will be pushed out to get possibly selected by some of the big streaming services.
Okay, good.
Everything's in line. It's just like a matter of like, how are we going to make it happen? And that's why the fund part of it comes in. And we really we're right now like building our audience during the campaign. So spreading it, helping people know about it is like the hugest help. And then you get to play the numbers game with us, and then the money comes in automatically. You don't have to open your wallet, but love us and
Okay,
do
cool.
that too.
That's great. Yes, because I think it was back in, what did you say, it was March, when there was like a limited kind of,
Yeah.
I guess you wouldn't call it limited release, but was it? I forget when it was.
Yeah, March 1st, we did a Patreon only, where you can support it at $10 on a subscription. You can always cancel at any time, but it's like that's how you watch the film. And we invited literally everyone who's ever supported the film in any way, whether that was like in helping us make it or in funding it at any point or in the Seed and Spark for $5 or whatever. Everyone who's ever been a part of the film and showed support got invited to weekly screenings and Q&A with all the people in the movie every week for like we did it for 3 months. So that was like a really fun thing, but it actually got really, really low turnout. We'd have like 8 people watching the movie with us and then doing the Q&A every time. We recorded them. They're on our YouTube. And I was really surprised because we invited like 300-400 people every single week. And then people would email me the next day and be like, how do we watch the movie? I was like, well, we're inviting you for free.
That's a big part. That's a big part of the need here because, like, let's be honest. People watch movies on their own time, right? They watch a movie when they just finished dinner. They want to put a movie on. They've got, oh, what do you want to watch? And they've got 2 or 3, and somebody will say, oh, that Witness Underground thing. And if it's not easy to watch right then, they're not gonna.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we're after, is like, this should just be couch casual. You should be able to watch it. Random people should be able to discover it because it pops up in their queue or whatever.
It should be free with ads on streaming platforms with advertisements like Tubi.
We wanted to meet people where they are so they don't have to go out of their way and learn about this special thing and then go to a website they don't normally go to and yet blah, 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 blah. So
too many barriers to entry.
You've been able to see it if you went to the right film festival or if Scott happened to personally contact you and you happened to be available at that time. But this will be the real, like, normal people just watching the thing. And
on modern standards of when you want to do it on demand.
You gotta work with how people are.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
We did try a lot of experiments to try to reach out to the many communities, and it just was like, oh, okay, well, humanity works a different way now, and that wasn't enticing, even if we gave it to you for free.
That's a slow way to get people to watch your movie one at a time.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. But it's all part of the plan, and we're learning as we go. And one of the things I guess we haven't mentioned is we're doing this crowdfunding thing, and we're learning how to do it, and also trying to collect all of the creative people on the planet from this weird thing. And we've got people that are from the film festival world joining us who have nothing to do with this religion, and from like a film mixer group in Houston reached out and is helping us out. So like people beyond the Witness thing are coming in, which is really exciting. And people from all over the world as well. And like I get reached out to now every single day that we've started. We've only been going for 3 days, but I've had at least one new person a day say like, I made a record and I'm an ex-Witness. What is this? This is so cool. Like, how do I meet you guys? Like, oh, come to the Discord. Like we're trying to like collect everybody. And then it's like, okay, great. Now we have another year's worth of podcast episodes and art to show the world. This is a thing, like join us. And it doesn't have to be ex-Witnesses. That's something that like more and more I want to like branch out because there's so many stories that are valuable. And it's not just this one hyper super extreme niche of you have to be an artist who left this particular high control group. Like there's a lot of people who have interesting stories of transformation.
So before we go, is there anything else you'd like to tell us? Anything we need to know?
I would say check out witnessunderground.com. That is where everything's happening. And we'd love to see you there, see what you think of it. Share our Facebook video if you can. That really, really helps us out.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Ryan and Scott.
Thanks a lot, Gary.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Okay. I might edit this little part out. That's good.
I was going to go like cult leader here and, do this.
I do. No, get that. It's so funny.
This is my, if you need to flash to me as a cult leader from that comment, here I can do it. And I'm like, I'm not a cult leader. And then you show that.
Cult leader here, Ryan Sutter from Nuclear Gopher Records.
Yeah.
Nuclear Gopher started as a record label and then it turned into a cult.
Used to be in, I don't know, like Satanists of America or something like that. And he realizes now that was a cult. And they do the same thing. It's not just about worshiping Satan. It doesn't matter who you're worshiping. It's the same crap.
How much will people understand that it's sarcasm? That's
what the crazy guys in your congregation, how they interpret it and spit it at you.
The
Like,
entire elder
right.
body of the next congregation were in like an 80s metal cover band for hair bands. And they
Yeah.
would like get together in the evenings after they got their talk stuff out of the way, and they had time away from their wives and kids to like go shred in one of the guys' basements. And then that was the elder body. And then they were upset that we were making different kinds of music because like hair bands was the only thing that was acceptable.
I just moved to the insane asylum. I couldn't believe how crazy it was.
Oh, like so and so, he masturbated, so he's evil. We can't talk to him for a year or two, and like treat him like shit. And then like at home you beat your wife. Is like, okay, like which part of this is God's, Holy Spirit directed?
Right. So anyway, yeah.
It's all good. Yeah.
yeah,
I think
you
we
just got the
definitely
soundbite you're
all
looking
have a
for.
Plan here.
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to talk about, by the way?